it's Emily with Miss Anita's Crafts. It is almost about to be Easter time, and you're about to see a whole bunch of these plastic eggs in the store. Dollar Tree is a really great place to find these because they have all the different ones, the clear ones, the multicolored ones. And then I found the white ones a couple years ago and bought a bag of them, but didn't really know what to do with them. They just, to me, looked like something that you could make a cool craft out of. I didn't really have any ideas, so I bought some, and I've actually been thinking about it for a while, and I finally came up with something that I might be able to do with the white eggs. And so since it's a good time to go and stock up on all that stuff at your Dollar Tree or Walmart, let's talk about something fun that we can do with the white plastic Easter eggs. So I want this craft to look like a dinosaur egg with a little dinosaur claw popping out of it. And so I'm going to be using a few different things for this one. But to get us started, I just want to use my snippers here, and I'm just going to kind of chop a little bit of the egg out so that way I have like a little hollowed out space on there. Kind of just chop it up so it looks like a piece of the egg is broken. So we want it to look a little choppy, but not like cute little zigzags like what you'd see on a little Easter chick or something. We want it to look broken, like, you know, it's all mangled up, like the dinosaur is just kind of trying to pry his way out of there. So a little broken piece like that will be cool. And then maybe a couple more little snips. And it does sort of crack naturally as you're doing that, which is kind of cool. So let's just get a couple more little cuts in there. Pry these pieces off, and if you can, one of these flew across the room, but if you can save these little broken pieces, save them, because you might be able to make something else out of these little broken pieces as an additional part of this craft. So go ahead and snip off what you can of the top and the bottom before we kind of do some designs on here. And I got a really good snap on that one. I just sort of cut it up the side like that, and the whole thing snipped all the way to the top, so that was pretty cool. And I think I want to cut off a little bit from here, or at least just bend it so I can kind of look like it's being pried open. So that will look pretty cool. Okay, so what I've got right now is, and they still kind of go together, but I just have a little broken piece. It doesn't matter if they're not snapping shut anymore, that's okay, because we're gonna just work with it like it is and kind of glue it back together in the end, so that's okay. We just kind of wanted a little area that looks like it's been dug out. Okay, so that's about paint markers, and I thought, you know, it might make it a little too silly if I do this with polka dots. I kind of want it to look more like a real egg, so I just went and got some of this kind of off-white tannish color. It's almost like a gray tan, and I'm gonna generously coat this on the outside. I don't need to do the inside, but kind of using a soft brush that's not going to be anything that's ripping the paint off as you're painting. You're not going to want to do a second coat on this really right away. If you can help it, you'd want it to air dry because the plastic will melt if you try to, you know, hit it with the dryer, the paint dryer. So don't try to do that because you'll just mess up. I'll paint that part a little bit, the part that's going to show. You're just going to mess up the plastic and probably melt it. So set it somewhere to air dry while you work on the next part. And so just like that, and then we'll work on our other egg, and then we'll work on the second step of the process, our little dinosaur foot. All right, so for the next part, I'm going to make the claw, and I'm going to do it out of polymer clay. So I have some army green, mucky looking green clay that I've been mushing around in my hands for a little bit and trying to get it soft enough to work with. And I also have some wire that I'm going to use to sort of build the claw around. So the wire's not always necessary when you're working with polymer clay, but I like to sometimes, if it's something like fingers like this, it's going to be, I'm just going to do 3 fingers, so the claws, so it looks like a little hand coming out. But on something like that, because it's a little bit longer and they sort of have to curve, I don't want them to be too brittle where they might break. So I put the wire in there, not because I can bend it afterwards, because it definitely can't bend once it comes out of the oven. You don't want to try bending it. It's shaped the way it's going to stay. But what it does is just provide a little extra support. So it's a little framework inside there. So I'm just getting this a little bit softened up, and then I'm going to get some wire cut so we can get that going. So I'm going to cut more than I need because I want to double up so I can have extra reinforcement. Okay, so let's do any kind of wire will do. This is a coated one, so it's a little nicer on your fingers, especially after working with that clay, which can be kind of hard on your fingers. All right, so I'm just twisting it and kind of reinforcing it a little bit, making it stronger. Okay. And then we're going to just do it again, and we're going to create 3 of these. Okay. And just enough so it can poke out. We'll hot glue it in place later. There doesn't have to be an actual whole hand in there, just a little bit peeking out. So we'll have that, which we're going to wrap clay around. So it's just our little 3 fingers. Okay. So then we'll just build each one up with some clay, kind of doing like this. I'm just kind of sandwiching it. So I'm just kind of laying the clay on it and then just rolling it up. So it can be messy. You don't really want this to be super smooth. You want it to be a little crinkly, a little bit cracked and lumpy, because this is supposed to look like a dinosaur claw. So it's not going to look, you know, really nice and perfect. It's going to look a little bit lumpy, a little bit textured. So we'll do another one right there where I'm just kind of laying the flat piece of clay that's about the same size, as long as I can get it to be at least as long as the wire, and then just wrapping it around, kind of sealing it up like that. Okay, and then just kind of go around, mush it with your hands to seal it on there really good so there's no air where it can't kind of wobble around in there. Okay, that's pretty cool already. And then we'll get our last little piece. Okay, I don't think I need that much. Since this clay is out of its package and I've used it for different things, I just usually keep them in a little baggie, so a little Ziploc bag or something, so that this stuff doesn't dry out. You know, it's not air dry clay. Polymer clay is not. But you don't want it touching other things or getting stuck to something, because if all your clay is just loose in a drawer somewhere, then they're all going to be touching, and you know, all your colors are going to get stuck together, and that's not what we want. So there, I just laid it on top of the last one. Don't worry about this part so much, because that part's going to be inside the egg, so we won't really see it. And all the while we're doing this, the paint on the outside of our eggshell is drying nicely. So that'll be ready for us. Okay, cool. I love the way this looks. This could be used for a lot of different things, but since that wire's in there before it goes in the oven, we're able to sort of make that little claw, just bend it a little bit and make it do what you want it to do. Okay, you want a little knuckle. Maybe you got to pinch a little bit to the center to have a knuckle. That would be really cool. Oh yeah, look at that. A little bump. This almost looks like a little witch hand, which I guess it could be that too if you wanted to make something, a little zombie hand or something. There you go. That's really cool. Popping out of the ground. So what I'm doing is just kind of doing like this, kind of pushing to the center to create that little bump, that little knuckle, which I think it just looks so cool. Okay. And then just squeeze them together if you want them closer. There you go, like a little claw. Perfect. I love that. Yes. Okay. So now is where, if we had been able to successfully save one of our little pieces of the egg that we cut away, which I was able to find it. It flew across the room. It was way over there. So you could just kind of cut some of this, and that could be the nails that get glued onto the ends of the claws, because you can just create little sharp looking fingernails, which is really cool, or claws I should say. But of course don't put these on before they go in the oven, because, well, I don't think 2 minutes in the oven is going to melt them, but you definitely don't want to put any plastic in there. You want to make sure the whole thing is ready to go before you glue any plastic onto it. So make sure it comes out of the oven okay. What you can do is create like a little space where you're going to glue it, so you can go along and just make a little mark where your claws are going to be. Okay, so it's easier to do the gluing later. There you go. Looks like weird little fingernails. Okay, so I'm going to stick this guy in the oven. I'm going to put it in my my craft oven that I only use for crafts, so I never toast bagels in there. It's just what I use for really just clay and Shrinky Dinks. That's it. So I'm going to set him in the oven, and I'm going to put it up to 400. Keep a close eye on it. Don't walk away. Just 2 minutes in there, and then when you pop him out, it's going to be still a little rubbery, but you just let him set for a second, and he will be solid. So let's go do that, and I'll be right back. Okay, so here's our little hand, still warm from the oven. I'm going to put some glue on the fingertips here so I can glue the claws on there. Very cool use of the extra piece of egg, which we almost lost. Well, there we go. Let's just glue them on there carefully. I couldn't think of a better thing to use for the claws. Trying to think about all the different things that I have here that I could use as little scrappy pieces or something sharp or shiny, but nothing would really give it the look that I wanted besides these. I thought these just really did the trick. And it's part of the craft, so it just makes sense. Okay, cool. So there's the claws. And the egg, I just kind of put it back together. But what we're going to need to do is kind of put a little bit of glue here in the back to glue it in place. And then kind of partially close it so that the hole, we want the hole to be in the front, just like that. Okay, so we need to put a little bit of glue in the inside for the hand. There we go. Just kind of let it fall in that area where it's cracking down the edge there. All right, I think what I would probably do is once the paint isn't tacky anymore, I might come in later and maybe do some little spots of another color, maybe give it some little shadowy areas, probably around where it's cracked. I might come along and just paint a little bit of darker brown or black or something on there, just a little bit to give it some shadowy areas so it looks old and so it looks like, you know, it's maybe dirty or it's been, I don't know, rolling around somewhere in the dirt. And this whole thing is still pretty warm because it just came out of the oven. But I really think this came out cool. I might even, if I could do this again, I might even paint the inside of the egg too, so it's dark in there, so it gives a little more mystery, like what's going on in there. You know, you can kind of tell there's a claw popping out, but you'd not be able to see inside so well. So I think that's what I would do if I could do it again. But I think this one just came out really cool. I just like the little fingers hanging out of there. It's pretty neat.